Guys, we are getting incredibly close to an altcoin season in the crypto market. And the reason that I say this is because of what we saw happen in the beginning of the year with Bitcoin going from $39,000 all the way up to $73,000 to its new all-time high. And that was because of the Bitcoin ETF. And now we're starting to see some parallels with what happened then to the new Ethereum ETF. So I want to break this down. Somebody put out an incredible tweet, that's 1618 guy, and I want to read it to you guys and kind of break it down a little bit to show you exactly where we're at in the market, but also to give you a little bit of insider info on this, because a lot of people thought initially when this dropped that the price would just immediately skyrocket and we would see a $10,000 Ethereum. Now, I don't think that a lot of the people that knew actually what was going on with Grayscale and the rest of these ETFs thought that, but there were a lot of people in crypto Twitter and also a lot of articles that I read said that. So I want to break down exactly what my thoughts were and what I've spoken about on my channel previously and read this to you guys and break it down. So analysis of the GBTC and ETH outflows. After analyzing GBTC outflows, we observed a total of $5 billion in outflows from January 11th to January 26th, a period that marked the inflection points before the BTC market rallied. At the start of the ETF, GBTC had $28 billion in assets under management. Thus, $5 billion represents an approximate 18% of ETF outflows during this period. So essentially what they're saying is, when the BTC ETFs dropped, there were people that were in Grayscale's GBTC, which was another fund that allowed people to invest in it that was not an ETF. It was actually for futures and not spot, meaning that you weren't actually getting Bitcoin whenever you purchased that. It was basically just a bet on what the price would be at a certain point. Okay, going on. Applying a similar trajectory to the ETH ETF, we can anticipate around 20% outflows before seeing a significant bounce in ETH. Considering the higher ETH ETF fees of 2.5 compared to GBTC's 1.5, we should account for a slightly higher percentage of outflow from the ETH ETF. Given that BTC experienced an 18% outflow, we estimate ETH might experience around 25 to 30% outflow before the market steps in to reprice. So essentially what they're saying is, because the higher fees on ETH, that futures index, they think that there's going to be more of that sold on Grayscale and brought into the other spot. But essentially what we saw with GBTC was that 18% of the whole assets under management were sold in order to go into spot, or just sold off because they wanted to. And they think that the ETH is going to be a higher percentage. And essentially what we saw whenever all of that selling was done, the 18% that they're talking about, was the price went up on Bitcoin. And they think that, and I think as well, that the price of Ethereum, once that selling of 25 to 30% is finished, that we will see the price start rising with Ethereum as well. Continuing on, before the ETF launch, ETH had about $10 billion in assets under management. Assigning a 25% outflow, ETH's assets under management would be around $7.5 billion. Therefore, the target range for ETH assets under management is between $7 billion and $7.5 billion. Currently, ETH's assets under management before today stands at $8.5 billion. In other words, another $1 billion of outflows, which, by the way, we saw $1 billion in outflows just this past week alone, should put ETH in a range comparable to GBTC. Assuming similar outflows over the past 2 days, $1 billion outflow should be achieved within the next 3 days. There you have it. The 25 to 30% range is an estimate compared to the 18% outflows observed in GBTC before the inflection point. This estimate can change depending on the impact of the 2.5% fee structure. Bottom line, if ETH continues to experience outflows at a rate of approximately $300 to $400 million per day, we can expect to reach a bottom within 1 to 2 weeks, possibly even sooner. So there you have it. I've spoken on my channel how after the Bitcoin ETF dropped, it was a month of a downtrend and then a month of an uptrend until we reached that new all-time high. So 2 months altogether. But here, the selling of ETH because of that high fee percentage is going much faster, at a much faster rate. So what we could see is within the next week or even 2 weeks, which is still a very short time frame, all of that selling and pressure of these outflows will dwindle down and the price will immediately start to recover and maybe even hit a new all-time high like we saw with Bitcoin. So what does that do with the rest of the market? If you've been paying attention, you know that Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of determine what the rest of the market is doing. When they're doing well, the rest of the market is doing well. Whenever they aren't doing well, the rest of the market is bleeding. Now, there are some divergences throughout the market that you'll find where, like, for instance, this week, Solana has been doing crazy well compared to the rest of the market. So you can see these divergences happen every now and then, but it's pretty rare. Most of the market is determined by the price action of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And right now, Ethereum is the asset that's holding everything else back. So once we see Ethereum start going up, I think that the rest of these altcoins out there are going to do extremely well. Solana could even do better than what it's been doing over this past week. It's right on the cusp of $200 at this point, but we could easily see $300 to $400 in this cycle, I think. AVAX is another one of those assets that I've talked about on my channel relentlessly lately because I think it is very undervalued at these prices. Right now it's at about $27, and I think that that one could easily go to $200 in this cycle. So what I foresee happening is over the next couple of weeks, we might see some more selling of the ETH fund. And eventually, once that pressure is done, we will see Ethereum start rising in value and eventually hit a new all-time high. So that's my analysis on what's happening right now. There's also a lot of other things happening in the market politically. There is so much happening with this campaign in the US, but that's neither here nor there. I just want to stick to the fundamentals of crypto itself right now and talk a little bit about these ETFs and what I project happening. So there you have it. That's going to be it for this video today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button. Crypto Clay out.